Most humans do not reject the Bible after examining the record. They reject the profile they inherited before they ever opened the file. A corrupted book. A king-made book. A religious control device. A telephone game dressed up as truth. A pile of contradictions too old to verify and too spiritual to trust. Now, to be fair, not every skeptic is lazy. Some have read it, studied it, debated it, still walked away unconvinced. That belongs in the case. But here is what keeps bothering me. Whether the critic is careless or brilliant, the accusation usually lands in the same place. This book cannot survive serious scrutiny, and if that claim holds, the case collapses. Because a corrupted record is not evidence, it is contamination. But the deeper I scan this file, the less this looks like a book drifting through history by accident. And the more it looks like a guarded record humanity keeps profiling before review. That is the tension. Because if the file is stronger than humans were told, then the dismissal built on it is weaker than it sounds. So I am not opening this as a sermon. I am opening it as a record. The Bible is not one book. It is a library. Law, history, poetry, wisdom, prophecy, letters, witness testimony, Moses, David, Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Daniel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Peter, Paul. Different centuries, different writers, different settings. And still the line holds. Creation, rebellion, covenant, law, judgment. Mercy, promise, rescue. That should slow people down, because scattered books usually stay scattered. This file does not. It keeps reading like one long case unfolding through many hands. And the people preserving it did not treat it casually. Jewish scribes guarded these writings because they believed they were preserving the words of God. After the destruction of the temple in AD 70, that work only became more urgent. The text was copied, checked, counted, compared, and guarded because the record mattered. Then Christians preserved that same line because they believed the older record was pointing forward, not fading out. Isaiah says, "The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever." That is not proof. That is the claim inside the file. So Exhibit 1 is simple, not inspiration, preservation. The receipts. Now move from profile to receipts. First receipt, proximity. Legends like distance. This file does not. The 7 undisputed Pauline letters are commonly dated from roughly AD 51 to 57. That places them within about 2 to 3 decades of Jesus' crucifixion, inside living memory, while witnesses and opponents were still close enough to challenge what was being said. That matters. Because fake stories prefer dead witnesses. Then the circulation tightens. Paul's letters were moving early, publicly, and authoritatively. Then Luke. Luke writes like a compiler, a researcher, a man tracing reports carefully and setting them in order. That is recognizably investigative ancient historiography. This wasn't secondhand distance. Paul echoes Luke inside the file. Then the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Different angles, different pacing, different emphasis. Not 4 polished press releases, witness files, and they keep the hard material in. Failure, fear, confusion, delay, doubt. Women finding the tomb first. Disciples collapsing under pressure. Propaganda protects image. Witness files protect memory. Then older manuscripts step back into the room. The great Isaiah scroll from Qumran is commonly dated around the 2nd century BC, roughly 1,000 years earlier than the oldest complete medieval Hebrew manuscripts, used before the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. And instead of the case collapsing, confidence in the stability of Isaiah tightened dramatically. Not every textual question vanished, but the lazy corruption story got much harder to tell with a straight face. Peter writes, "We did not follow cleverly devised myths." Again, not proof, but it is a dangerous sentence to publish if your case cannot survive contact with witnesses. So Exhibit 2 is this: not blind faith, document trail. The corruption story. Now back to the accusation. What about contradictions? What about translation? What about Nicaea? King James and every hand in between? Fair questions. Start with translation. Translation is not corruption by default. A translation is a rendering of an earlier text into another language. The real question is whether intelligent readers still have meaningful access to the underlying textual tradition. They do. Today, scholars work with roughly 5,500 to 5,700 Greek New Testament manuscripts, and tens of thousands of witnesses in ancient versions like Latin, Coptic, and Syriac. That does not erase all debate. It does mean the text leaves a very large trail. The early church fathers also quoted the New Testament so heavily that nearly the entire New Testament could be reconstructed from their citations alone. That is not a whisper chain. That is a public record. Then the telephone game line. It sounds clever. It is also weak. The Bible did not move like one private whisper in the dark. It moved through copying, checking, public reading, quotation, comparison, correction, and preservation across communities. Then contradictions. Yes, there are difficult passages. Yes, there are tensions. Yes, scholars still debate. But textual variants, difficult passages, and total collapse are not the same thing. Most variants are minor. Complexity is not the same thing as corruption. Then Nicaea. Nicaea did not invent the Bible. The council met in AD 325 to address the Arian controversy and the question of Christ's nature. By the late 2nd century, the 4 Gospels, Acts, and the core Pauline letters were already circulating with authority, long before Nicaea ever met. Then King James, same issue. The King James Bible did not create the record. It translated an already existing textual tradition into early 17th century English. Important? Yes. Origin point? No. The psalmist says, "The sum of your word is truth." Again, that is the claim. But it is one this record has carried across centuries, languages, communities, and empires. without losing its central line. So Exhibit 3 is not perfection in every copyist decision. It is continuity under pressure. So here is where the case lands. Not every unbeliever is lazy. Some have read deeply and still walked away. That deserves respect. But respect does not end the investigation. Because the deeper I scan this record, the less this looks like a book humanity outgrew. And the more it looks like evidence humanity keeps profiling before review. And if the book is earlier, more public, more guarded, more studied, and more preserved than the culture admits, then the Bible is not just a religious object. It is part of the evidence. And once that settles on the table, the next question becomes unavoidable. Why does this entire record keep converging on one man? If you want more case files like this, you know what to do. This is Gospel Noir. File updated. Case not closed.